And today we have Adam Pendle. Did I say that last name right, Adam?
Did. Well done.
Perfect. And Adam is going to share some of his insights with us with eXp and what he's been up to. And Adam, how long have you been with eXp?
I've been here for just over a year.
Nice.
It would have been March of last year that we transitioned.
What made you like open up your eyes to eXp and ultimately join?
Yeah, so we kind of got to a point in our business where we felt pretty maxed out. My dad and I are a team. He's been an agent for 35 years. I've been an agent for about 9 now, and just felt really maxed. So we actually hired a coach. This would have been fall of 2021. We hired a coach. They had us dive into our expenses. So, hey, start with your brokerage with those expenses and let's see where you guys are at, what you're spending. And I'd never done that before. I thought we were on a great split. I mean, I had interviewed with other offices. And so I told my coach, I'm like, bro, I don't really want to take the time to do this. And he's like, so his name is Jason Shepardak. He's with Club Wealth. He's not at eXp.
Okay.
So we did that, and he's like, you guys are paying way too much. We were paying our brokerage over $100,000 a year, and he's like, you guys are paying too much. So I asked him, I said, well, where should we go? What should we look into? And he said, check out eXp. I'm in the process of kind of thinking through making a shift there. If I wasn't where I am now, that's where I'd be. So it took 3 months to get like a good understanding of it and talk with you. I had been listening to Lars's podcast for a number of months. And so I saw him make a shift. So I reached out to him, got connected with him, talked through everything with him, analyzed expenses with him, got an understanding of it. And then we pulled our team over. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How many conversations did it take for you and your dad to go from we're talking about eXp for the first time to we're ready to move the team over?
Oh, a lot. I don't even know how many. I mean, it literally took me
You did a 3-way call with me?
I did. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it would have been at the beginning of the process. But it literally took us 3 months to, like, my dad was so set in where he was. He'd been at that same brokerage for 34 years, and I couldn't believe he was even willing to have the conversation. So I took on the lead to get an understanding of it, had lots of conversations, listened to lots of stuff, and then once we felt comfortable, my coach asked us, we were kind of at this point where we weren't sure what we even wanted to do, because he's getting to the point where he's kind of winding down his business. And so our coach was talking with us, and he said, in 5 years, what brokerage is going to position you in the best way for your future, for your family? And my dad and I looked at each other and we're like, we know what we need to do. And
yeah. Oh, it's so good, man. Good coach too, by the way. Like, those are just the real questions that don't change from, you know, our model to any other model, from coach to coach. That's why we always say, like, the best place for a coach is at eXp, because when you understand eXp, you're going to understand it's the best next destination for anybody you're coaching or talking to. I was actually a coach before I got into eXp, and I had coached people to go to eXp as well before I was even in eXp. When I was still one of the people that was like, I will never go to eXp, I was coaching people and telling them to go to eXp. So, like, that should have been a light bulb for me, but it wasn't. What's your eXp group like now?
So I only have 10 people in my downline.
Okay.
I think I'm still learning it. I mean, I've tried a handful of different things. I've tried connecting with people on LinkedIn. What I've kind of seen some traction with lately is, and I've mainly focused on my market and the people I know. But what I've seen some traction with lately is offering just to dive into their expenses and what it could look like inside of eXp.
So that's interesting. And what you'll find is that a lot of people approach their prospecting in the same way that it worked for them. So because that worked for you, Now you're like, oh, I'm going to approach people that way.
Yeah.
I was a guy that was so anti eXp for so many years that I approached eXp prospecting as, well, hey, who else hates eXp like I did? I'm going to go call them and be like, hey, dude, I know you hate eXp. So did I. But here's what I found out. We got to take a look at this together. Tell me if I'm missing something. And that worked well for me, because what works for you will work well for you in your prospecting, because it's natural and it's real to you. And then as we scale up, we can go outside of those immediate levels of what worked for us to other ways that make sense for us to prospect. What's your biggest challenge with prospecting?
That's a great question. I want to kind of start filtering into some other markets, and I struggle to even get my link working to this, so I was a little late joining the call. But I feel like I need to dive into resources like, is it Darren? Darren, were you talking a few minutes ago? What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Darren Isaac.
I'd love to find out more resources on things like that, because I mean, besides LinkedIn, I don't have those connections outside of my market, and I've had gentle touches on a lot of the agents in my immediate market, but I think that's a long-term play, and I don't want to bombard them too much. So I need those other sources like what you have going. That's awesome.
How many sales do you generally do per year?
Individually, I'll usually do between 70 and 100 deals.
Wow. Personally, by yourself? Wow. What market are you in?
I'm in South Bend, Indiana. It's right by Notre Dame.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you, are there any one, two, or three things that you do consistently every year to generate that kind of business?
Yeah. So I've been, and expireds have been great for me this year. I just listed one for 1.9, and our average sales price is usually like 200. So not a common listing around here. So expires have been great. I still hitting for sale by owners. For sale by owners have been good to me as well. And then repeat business, referrals, all that kind of stuff has been our large source.
So I got a couple thoughts running through my head right now that I'm gonna lay out before you. My first question though is, of those 70 to 100 deals that you do every year, did you 100% of the time ask the person that was the co-broke agent to learn about eXp?
No.
So like that just has to happen for all of us. And if it's not happening, we need to dig into why that is and what the mindset is behind that, and like what limiting beliefs you may have. Because if you and I are doing a deal and I'm already in a transaction with you, I'm going to be like, Adam, man, you can imagine like with the amount of business that we're both doing, like we both come into contact with lots of agents. Hey, most of them don't go this smoothly. Like I really can tell that you're a professional and I love working with you. Out of curiosity, because I'm very proud of the company I'm with, eXp, and like all the benefits that we've received since moving over here. Have you ever looked at eXp as an option for your business? Like if they say, oh, hell no, I'm just coming from a place of curiosity and interest. Oh, really? What was it that like turned you off about the company just out of curiosity? Like there's no pressure, there's no sliminess, there's no network marketingness to this. Like I'm just excited about, like I'm obviously doing good business. Like if I'm you, I'm doing 70 to 100 deals. That's got to put you in the top 1 to 2% of your whole market. Like there's got to be less than 2% of the people in your MLS doing that much volume.
Yeah.
So you already have cred. So now you're telling somebody that obviously looks up to you, you probably do more deals than them. You're telling them, hey man, I made this move to eXp and it's the best thing I ever did. And I'm asking you if you looked at it for your business. And they're only going to have 1 or 2 things to say, but like that's got to be like, that's like being in the real estate business for the long term and not asking your clients for referrals. Like you just got to do that. So there's 70 to 100 more peaks that you're going to have per year, which is a tremendous amount. The next thing that I would do is, because I just understand real estate coaching and I've been to more events than I can count, is that most people receive information and do nothing with it. So if you go to a conference, somebody on stage is telling you the best secrets, the best things to do, the most practical application, the best framework for your day. And the reality is 95+% of that audience is going to take that information and do absolutely nothing with it. So with that premise in mind, and with the skills and success that you're having in your marketplace, I would identify your 1, 2, or 3 best things you do. And if it's expired's one of them, I would figure out what is the sizzle behind that. So like take all the deals that you have actively listed, that you've closed, or that you have pending right now for the year that you got through expired marketing, figure out what the gross commission income is for that, and then say something to the effect of, come this Tuesday to learn how I've generated, $92,000 this year from expired marketing. Generated doesn't mean earned. You've generated it. It hasn't all come in yet. Some of them are active listings, some of them are pending. But how I've generated whatever the biggest number is you can, that's the sizzle. Come learn from me on how I did this. I'll be breaking down the exact system, tools, strategies, and processes that I've done to generate that in less than 6 months time. Dude, you fill a room with 20 people. Again, there's no risk that like you're going to share your best stuff in your market and that it's going to hurt you. Most people aren't going to do anything with it. And even if they do something with it, they're so less advanced and along the way than you. Just give your best stuff away for free and fill a room, and then go deep on that one topic, and then tell them at the end, guys, many of you know I'm with eXp. I just shared with you exactly what I do to generate this amount of business. Is there anybody in the room that's generating that much or more business from that pillar? And the answer is going to be no, because that's why they're there. They wouldn't have responded to the ad. So then you're just like, look, this is the type of collaboration that me and my fellow eXp members have with each other. I'd love to partner with anybody of you here that heard this today, that got value from it and is interested in learning more. There's no pressure. There's no sales pitch, but I'd love to share with you how we're collaborating at a national level like this. And we're doing this with each other, and we're adding value to each other's business. If you'd like to learn more, stay behind. We're going to have a real brief presentation just so that you understand how eXp works and how we're able to work like this together.
That's good.
People will stay, man. You'll recruit people off that all day long. Glenn Sanford said that when people come to a lunch and learn to learn something, 60% of the people in the room that are not with eXp will join eXp within the next 6 months.
Wow.
So, I mean, I think those two things are probably, a great, things to implement in your business. What are some things that you have gotten value from by being with eXp, not on the agent attraction side, but just on the agent sales side?
Yeah, I mean, I have let me pull my my notes up here. So, I mean, I have a whole outline that I go over with people, and it's pretty easy because, I mean, when I've sat down and analyzed with other agents, like the cost, their output, and then their input, or what they're going to be saving inside of eXp, every time there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So that part of the conversation is easy. And then the masterminds that we put on is a cool piece to the equation as well. But I don't feel like I have like one thing that just ropes everyone in, right?
Right.
I mean, I think it's all these pieces, and I haven't cracked the code on how to do this super well yet.
Well, the reality, Adam, is there is no one thing. A cost benefit analysis for top producers and team leaders is going to make sense 99% of the time. The training and masterminds are going to make sense a lot of the time for the newer agents that are coming up. Revenue share is going to make sense to a lot of team leaders and broker owners and coaches. Yeah. So it's like there's no one thing for everybody. The only one thing that I see is that we've got to first seek to understand the individual before we solve their problem.
That's good.
And that's what I've been harping on today. And yesterday I was on a mastermind, is like, whenever you hear about somebody having a bad experience with an eXp agent, it's because the eXp agent was cramming down a solution before they identified a problem. And usually that solution that they were cramming down came from somebody that didn't even know. You never hear people say, hey, I hate eXp because my best friend brought eXp to me and talked to me about rev share. No, it's the best friend would have gotten past all that. The best friend knows them. They say, hey, some idiot in my market that I don't like, know, or respect, usually 1, 2, or 3 of those, called me about eXp and started talking about stocks and all this other stuff, and I didn't want to hear them. To which I say, so you've never really understood it or looked at it, right? And they might say, well, I understand it. I mean, like, well, can you explain to me in your own words, like how revenue share works? And then they can't. And I'm like, well, why don't we do this? Like, I don't want to be like that guy. I want to help you first. Let me understand a little bit more about your business. This may not be for you. Since I read that in that book, I use that all the time. This may not be for you, but I'll make sure you at least get a quality look at it and can understand it. Because you and me are both in this industry, whether we do eXp or not, it would make sense that we understand the business model of the fastest growing thing that's ever come through our industry, would it not? We don't have to decide right now today if it's for us or not, but we should at least start to understand what it is. And then that logic usually wins them over. I'll be like, hey man, I'll promise you this, Adam, I'm not going to sell you, but if we spend 15, 20 minutes together, you'll understand eXp, how it works, why it works, and why people are excited about it. And then you can make a good decision on whether or not you want to learn more about it, but you'll understand the business model at its core. And they're like, okay, cool.
Right on.
Anything else you want to share with us on today's call?
I
like that you got notes prepared.
Well, I got notes ready whenever I try to meet with someone. I tend to review these. What I've kind of come to learn is I think oftentimes it's a long-term play. So when we first hopped on to eXp, we thought, oh man, everyone's just going to come join us. This just makes so much sense. And we didn't have much traction at all when we first started. And then to slowly see some traction kind of happen in our market, it's taken a while, and it's not, for us, it just hasn't happened overnight.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean,
it's important. I mean, I sometimes have to balance that in my agent attraction efforts because people get really excited, and I can tell that they think this is going to be easy.
Yeah.
And they start thinking, oh, you only need 40 FLQAs. Well, I'm just going to build out 2 positions and I'm going to get 80 FLQAs. And it's like, on one hand, you want to be like, yeah, man, let's do it. But you also want to set them up for success. And It's like, hey guys, like, I'm excited that you're excited, and I'm going to help you do this in a big way. And if we get 80 FLQAs, I promise you won't be upset if they're all on one line. But there's not that many people in the company that have 40 FLQAs. And I would think that it's in your best interest to focus on 1 position, not 2, because you'll get that in like the stacking comment. Well, I'm gonna put my wife, who doesn't even have a license yet, in, and then I'm gonna come in under my wife, and we're gonna run 2 positions, and we're gonna. I'm like, no. And sometimes what I'll tell them is like, look, man, like, I've been doing this for 2.5 years. I broke the record in the company, and like, I could have done it that way too, but I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. And I don't think it would have been a benefit if I did. And then sometimes that's, what you got to help them see. But I think, man, like, you got a good long-term perspective, and that's what we all need in this, real estate career, in agent attraction. And like, just keep chipping away at it, man. Like, you're doing a ton of deals. Just promise me you're going to come out of here and like at least talk to everybody you do a deal with. And yes, some of those people are going to like, you're going to mess it up. Like, you're going to be bad before you're good at that conversation, but role play it out with your dad, with Lars, with me, with somebody else. Let's get you at least proficient, and then have that conversation with everybody. Because if you do this for the next 10 years, because you're young, and you have, 1,000 more deals, and that's 1,000 more peaks, man, that alone could change your life without doing any other thing. Like, it take a little bit of time, you start picking away, your market will get traction and momentum. Like, I'm in the Bozeman market, and we got people on this call from Bozeman, and Bozeman is one of those markets where it's slow, it's new, but it's gaining traction, and all of a sudden it's going to be like bam, just like the Charlotte market was, and it's gonna light on fire, and we're going to get people fast. But right now in the beginning it's slow, and that's okay. You're in early, but you can have the primary, you can own that market as it grows, especially with the amount of production you're doing. Like, I think we all want to look at ourselves, and like we all lack confidence in some ways, and like, dude, you're killing it in real estate. People want to hear what you have to say. So like, go out there and share it with them.
Yeah.
That'd be my best advice to you.
Cool. I appreciate that.
Anybody else want to ask Adam a question that's on here? Going once, going twice.
Yes, I had a question for you, Adam. You mentioned that you were doing exceptionally well with, I guess, expireds.
Yeah.
Can you just do a real brief overview of kind of what your system is? What are you calling from? That type of sort of thing.
Sure. It's not complicated. So I have my admin pull a list of all the new expireds. I have her find all the phone numbers associated with that name, and I sit down and call them. And I typically begin that call by saying, hey, I'm not sure if I have the right phone number here. And that, just by saying that, the tone in their voice is like, oh, okay, this is a real person. And then I just ask them, I saw your home expired off the market and thought I'd see what your game plan is for the property looking forward. I'll let them talk it out, because most of the time they like to talk about what happened. And then I'll say something like, I'd love to figure out with you why your property hasn't sold. Could I swing out there this week on Thursday, or would Friday be better for you? It takes a lot of calls. You're going to have a lot of, I don't screen my calls through any type of system to make sure they're still connected. I just start calling them, and I can get a handful of calls in. I got an appointment yesterday I probably made 20 calls and got a listing appointment on a property that expired for $750. So yeah.
I love what you said there, man. Like, let's figure this out together. Like, dude, that apply that straight to your agent attraction. Like, hey, let's figure out this together. Let's figure out this market together. Let's meet for coffee. Let me share some things that are working. You share some things that are working. Let's figure this out together. But one other key thing I heard you say was, you don't screen or you don't analyze. You just pick up the phone and call. If it's an expired, you're not like, oh, let me research this one. Who had this listed last? Do I really want to call them? Will they get mad at me if I call their expired listing? Like, you just call. Like, have that same mentality with everybody that you do a transaction with.
There are some agents I don't want to join though.
Yeah, that's the beauty of eXp. There's those that join your team and those that join your organization, and send them over, man. Send them under one of your people, one of your 10.
I guess.
That's funny though. It is true.
Yeah.
Oh man, all kinds of characters.
Cool. Well, yeah, that's great advice. I appreciate that. I mean, for me, I haven't been diligent on these kind of calls, and it's like a refresher when I hop on one of these every once in a while. Like, yeah, I need to, even though I'm busy and doing a lot of I need to make this a priority again, and I need to be consistent with this. So it's good to have these types of things. Like, we went to Build last year, and we left Build. We're like, let's go. We're gonna do this.
Nice.
We had that kind of momentum going for a couple months and had a ton of appointments, and now it's like, I can do better picking up the phone to call expired. I can make more immediate money, but it is a long-term play.
Now you get back to Build this year, and you're in a whole new market environment, and you come back home and you call every one of those people that you called and set appointments with last time, and they're in a new season, and they, time, space, repetition. And now they're like, okay, I want to hear about it. Okay, let's sit down and talk. And then you call some new people, and like, you have momentum again.
Yeah. I love it.
Awesome, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys. This was a great call, and I'm looking forward to doing more calls that are more interactive like this with you guys in the future. AJ couldn't be with us here today. He had a personal thing, but he'll be back with us here next week, and he's excited for the new format as well. So appreciate you guys. Let us know what we can do to help, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, John.
Bye.
Thanks.